I'm Larry Purtle, president of NEA Rhode Island. And on behalf of Rhode Island's thousands of teachers, I want to tell you, enough is enough. Every parent, the tens of thousands in Rhode Island and millions across this country, have the right to put their child on the bus in the morning or drop them off at the school door and expect they will return later that afternoon. That is a basic right that every parent has. No parent should ever have to identify their child by DNA because their tiny bodies are unrecognizable. No parent should ever listen to the last words spoken by their child on the release of a 911 call. No parent should ever hear that their child had to smear blood on them from a dead classmate to play dead to avoid being shot and killed. It is way past time for gun safety laws to be passed in Rhode Island and across this country. It is not about gun control, it is about gun safety. The founding fathers, I'm pretty sure, did not attend a well-regulated militia to mean an 18-year-old could buy an AR-15 on credit and use it to kill school children. The next shooter is already planning his attack. Not another hour can be wasted. How many more times does it have to happen before we act? And yes, mental health is a major contributor, and so much more needs to be done, and it is only getting worse. But every other nation has mental health issues as well, and what they don't have is mass murder by guns. When faced with a mass shooting, they pass gun safety laws to almost eliminate mass killings in their countries. Canada is passing new gun laws based on what happened in the United States. And no, we are not arming teachers. Think not only how dangerous that is, but how stupid it is as well. Our military and police are trained and outfitted with tactical gear, yet Mrs. Robinson, the kindergarten teacher in room 101, is going to be trained to stop a killer outfitted for war? No. And what happens when a substitute comes in? They stop by the office, pick up room keys, lesson plans, and a gun? Let's stop with the idiotic ideas and pass what works. The bills before this General Assembly, regulating assault weapons, limiting magazine capacity, raising the age to buy a gun to 21, and safe storage is needed immediately. And let's not make schools fortresses where students feel more like they are in prison than a place to learn and to socialize with their classmates. Please, 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 let children be children and be able to do it safely. The overwhelming majority of Rhode Islanders and people across this country support these measures, yet the majority are being held hostage by a small minority. Some want to ban books and curriculum that teaches history in our schools, yet books and history lessons never killed a student. The time is now to ban what does kill students. We need to stop with the politicians who are more concerned with filling their coffers to get elected than the safety of our citizens, especially our children. That's why I want to thank our general officers, the legislators here, those who have put in legislation and the leadership to lead us and to take a stand and do what's right. Rhode Islanders and all Americans should be able to go shopping without the fear of being killed, to go to their house of worship without fear, and every parent that drops their child off at school in the morning or puts them on a bus has the right to expect them to return safely that afternoon. The time to act is today. Tomorrow, next week, next month may be too late. Our children deserve nothing less from us.
Thank you, Larry. My name is Patrick Crowley, and I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of the Rhode Island AFL-CIO. And brothers and sisters, let me share with you some news. When a teacher gets killed at a school building, when they're going to work, that makes it a union issue. When food service workers get gunned down in the supermarkets where they work, that makes this a union issue. When working class moms and dads have to worry up at night to wondering what's going to happen when they send their kids to school the next day, that makes gun violence a working person's issue, which makes it a union issue. And that's why, on behalf of the entire Rhode Island labor movement, we stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you today, calling for meaningful gun legislation to pass now. Not next week, not after the next election, not next year, but pass it now. You know, a key principle of the labor movement is the idea that you should be able to get up, go to work, and come home safely. And gun violence is making that next to impossible. Gun violence is killing too many working people who all they wanted to do was earn a day's wage and pay for their kids. You know what? That makes gun violence at the workplace a union issue. And that's why the labor movement, is here today. You may have heard it, but we have this expression in the labor movement. We always say, an injury to one is an injury to all. That's why, on behalf of all of the men and women that you see standing here behind me today, we stand in solidarity with all of you, with the people of Uvalde, of Buffalo, and we stand with working people anywhere that they are gunned down by senseless violence. It's time to act. This is a union issue, and we demand action right now. My sisters and brothers who stand behind me collectively represent 80,000 union members across the state of Rhode Island. They don't represent 80,000 gun targets. It's time to put a stop to this. It's time to make sure that we have meaningful gun legislation right now. Not next week, not after the next election, not next year, but right now. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, someone who's long been an advocate for gun legislation, meaningful, common-sense gun legislation. Someone who, I hope, very soon, I'm going to see a pen in his hand and signing into law meaningful gun legislation. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, allow me to introduce the governor of the state of Rhode Island, Governor Dan Mccabe.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you. I had regular lunches with the Senate President and the Speaker talking about the most important things that face the state of Rhode Island. And I've asked recently, what can I do to help get those bills to my desk, both of the Senate President and the Speaker? And they said, well, speak out. That's why I'm here today. I'm speaking out. It's been 1 week since that deadly shooting in Texas that left 19 children and 2 adults dead. What we know is that things need to change now. Just a couple hours ago, I did meet in a state room, brought in union leaders, teacher leaders, superintendents, associations, the commissioner of public safety, all to announce that we will continue to do our part to collaborate between the officials in the state to keep our schools safe. Now we want the General Assembly to do their part so that I can do my part and sign those bills immediately. We can't imagine a mass shooting in our schools here in Rhode Island. It takes our breath away even to think about it. But we know what we can do to prevent it. Passing common sense gun legislation is part of the solution. And as elected officials, both here in Rhode Island and our federal officials in D.C., it's up to us. It's up to us to act, to do all we can to end gun violence. It's time, and I'm proud to stand here with all the General Assembly members who know it's been time for a long time to act. It is time to limit high-capacity magazines. It is time to ban assault weapons. And it's time to raise the age to 21. Send those bills to my desk. I will sign those bills proudly. And we will continue to work diligently to keep people safe in the state of Rhode Island, in particular, those people that mean the most to us, which are our sons and daughters, our granddaughters, and our grandsons. I want to thank each and every lawmaker that's here today. Every lawmaker that has spoken out over the years to bring us to this point in time where we're ready to act. Every advocacy group, every concerned Rhode Islander for being here today and doing your part in making Rhode Island a safer place for all of us. And when we act here in Rhode Island, we do our part to make our nation a safer place for those who live in our country. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Lieutenant Governor, Sabina Matos. Please, Sabina, come on up. Thank you so much for your leadership as well. Thank you for having me here today. Send the bills to my desk. I'll give out some pens.
Thank you, Governor. And thank you for being ready to sign those bills. I want to say that unequivocally, there is no place in our society in which assault weapons and high-capacity magazines are allowed. We should allow to have them. No places of worship, no recreation locations, no places of learning, no playgrounds, no school zones. We shouldn't have those weapons in our churches and our supermarkets. Those are weapons created for the battlefield. Those are weapons of war, and that's where they belong. We don't need those in our society, and we have to do everything we can to prevent a situation like Uvalde, Texas, from ever happening here in the state of Rhode Island. The data shows that the regulations work. According to the research from the Boston University, states with restrictions on high-capacity magazines experience mass shooting at a less than half the rate of those without restrictions. The research also states that high-capacity magazines ban is the single best predictor of mass shootings rates in a state. Currently, Rhode Island is an outlier in our region. Massachusetts, Connecticut already have a ban on assault weapons and on high-capacity magazines in place. I want to commend the work of the advocacy community. I want to commend the work of Senator Goodwin, Coy, Miller, Savini, and Representative Colwood, Felix, and Tansey. I want to thank them for the work they've been doing, advocating with their colleagues here in the House of Representatives and the Senate to make sure that these bills get a hearing and that we finally can get those bills to the governor's desk to be signed. We are ready to add. We're ready to sign those bills. The governor's going to sign those bills. We just need them to send it to him. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to introduce Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Matos. It is time. Basta ya. Listen to your moms, listen to the people, and get these bills passed. Not tomorrow, now. As a mother myself, Senator DeMario's words reminded me of my own experience with this topic, where I remember the Connecticut shootings. I remember trying to shield my kids. I can't do that anymore. I need to be able to look at them in the eye and say, the work that your grown-ups are doing, the work that your elected leaders are doing is going to take care of you. And we need to pass these gun safety rules now. I want to thank the leaders in the General Assembly who have been there through thick and thin when there were fewer crowds. I want to thank Attorney General Peter Narona, who introduced the bills in this cycle and who invited the rest of us to do this work now. You have labor, you've got people, you've got elected leaders. Let's just get it done. Basta ya. Thank you.
I'd like to now introduce Attorney General Peter Narona.
All right, everybody, we have traveled far on this road, but there is road left to travel. If we get this legislation passed, we will have the same kind of results that we have had in the past. When the General Assembly passed and the governor signed the red flag bill, we put that to work and we're keeping Rhode Islanders safer. When we passed the straw purchasing legislation last year and the governor signed it, we made Rhode Islanders safer. When the General Assembly passed the ghost gun legislation and the governor signed it, we made Rhode Islanders safer. And when we're asked, use the existing laws, I say this, we're using them. We have charged 77 ghost gun cases since that legislation was passed. If you want to know whether we are using the existing gun laws, it's not hard to find where we're using them. Come to Providence County Superior Court, go to Courtroom 9, go to the gun calendar. You will see our prosecutors every day fighting to keep Rhode Islanders safer using these and other existing gun laws. But there is road left to travel, and I support every one of these bills. They will make Rhode Islanders safer. Imagine this. Imagine that you're at the 4th of July parade in Bristol, and you see 3 people standing across from you on the other side of the parade route with rifles, loaded rifles. Does that make you feel safer? No. Does that make you safer? No. But that's the way the law is right now. Let's change it. You know, when I was a young prosecutor, most police officers had shotguns in the trunks of their vehicles. Today, many police departments have AR-15s in the trunks of their vehicles. There's one department, that's all they have in the trunk of their vehicle are AR-15s. Every single officer on that department has an AR-15 in the trunk of their vehicle. Why is that? It's because they don't want to be outgunned. When we're asking our police officers to keep us safe, I want them to have the advantage, not the other way around. I want the bad guys to have the pea shooters, not the police. If we back the blue, back the bills. If we back the blue, back the bills. High-capacity magazines are not a theoretical problem in the state of Rhode Island. When we were asked last year to provide more data by the General Assembly, we did just that and more. And what did we find? In just 4 months, September to December of last year, 38 cases involving high-capacity magazines between 16 rounds and others over 30. 38 instances of that situation happening. The notorious shootout on Carolina Street in Providence. When police went into that apartment, they found a 30-round magazine, a 40-round magazine, a 50-round magazine, and a 60-round magazine. When those magazines are legal, are we more or less safe? If we back the blues, back the bills. We hear that all the time, back the blue. If we back the blue, back the bills. You know, there were at least 2 police chiefs here today, Chief Connor from Warwick and Chief Clements from Providence. I saw Commissioner Perry as well. The Police Chiefs Association testified in favor of these bills. If you back the blue, back the bills. We can keep Rhode Islanders safe. We can make Rhode Island safer. We can keep our residents safer. We can make our children safer. Let's get these bills done. Let's give them to the governor, have him sign them, and let's keep going. Thank you, everybody.
Next, we'll hear from General Treasurer Seth Magaziner.
Well, I don't know about all of you. I'm getting really tired of this. It's Groundhog Day. Every year, year after year, we come back to support these same bills, we go to the same hearings, we have the same press conferences, and we haven't gotten a vote. Meanwhile, the toll of dead kids continues to rise. Meanwhile, high-capacity magazines, as the AG noted, are showing up in more and more Rhode Island crime scenes. Meanwhile, you have Uvalde, AR-15, Parkland, AR-15, Newtown, AR-15, Orlando, AR-15, Las Vegas, AR-15. Do you see a pattern? Over and over and over again. But this year was different for me. I just became a new father. I have a 7-month-old baby at home. And you better believe that last week I got home as fast as I could and I hugged him a little harder because I knew there were 19 sets of parents in Texas who were never going to get to hug their kids again. We cannot keep letting this happen. We have to act. We have to go back to an assault weapons ban in a high-capacity magazine, which, by the way, we had for a decade nationally in the 90s and early 2000s. We are not asking for anything radical or different. We're just asking to go back to the same common sense laws that were the laws of our entire country when there were fewer mass shootings and fewer gun deaths. So, let's make this year different. Please, we need votes. We need votes. We need to make this year the year that we do everything that we can to make sure that the next Uvalde does not happen here in Rhode Island. Thank you very much, everybody, for turning out. Let's get it done.